Let's go over, we kind of talked about 1 through 4 already. Let's start off with number 5. Okay, and it says ray NP is an angle bisector of angle MNQ. That's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to draw an angle MNQ. It doesn't say what type of angle. I'll just draw a normal little acute angle. It's MNQ. So M is going to be here. N has to be the vertex because it's in the middle. And Q would be down here. So first thing I did, I drew the angle that they told me. But then they say that ray NP is an angle bisector. So an angle bisector would start here. Would it go like this?
No.
Would it go way up here like this? Where would it go? Right in the middle. It splits that big angle into how many? Okay, into 2 equal angles. Everybody hearing me? There's no reason to talk. Let's pay attention to this. You might see something just like this on the quiz. So this is NP. So that's a ray, and it bisects the angle, which means what's true about this angle and this angle? They're exactly the same. Not length. We don't measure angles in length, but the same measure, okay, we say. It's the same measure. So this angle and this angle are equal to each other. All right, let's read on. What else do they tell us? That angle PNQ, that's this bottom one right here, it's equal to 2x plus 1. That's an arrow. Okay, so this angle right here is 2x plus 1. The question is this. It says find angle MNQ, which is the whole big angle, isn't it? Jada, what do you think? What do you think you would do? Yeah, add them together. Exactly right. Because look, if I know this little angle right here is 2x plus 1, then what's this angle right here? That's also 2x plus 1. How do I know that? Because this NP was a what? It was a bisector. It split the angle into 2 equal angles. So if this angle is 2x plus 1, then this angle is 2x plus 1. What am I trying to find, though? I'm trying to find that whole big angle, aren't I? So what do I do with this angle and this angle? Add them up. That's right. Because watch, what if this was 20 degrees? It's not. I'm just saying what if. What if this was 20 degrees and what if this was 20 degrees? What would the whole big angle be? It'd be 40, wouldn't it? Okay? But it's not 20. We don't know that it's 20. But we do know that it's 2x plus 1. What did we do to get 40? We added them. What do we do with the 2x plus 1 and the 2x plus 1? Add them together. So 2x plus 1 plus 2x plus 1. Add them together. 2x plus 2x is 4x. 1 plus 1 is 2. And that's what that angle is right there. That's how you get that angle. It's not so bad, is it? It was a lot easier when you drew the angle out, though, wasn't it? Jane, a question? That little m, it's the measure of the angle. Remember, we talked about that the other day. I leave it out when I write stuff out, but the book will do that. They'll put a little m in front of it, find the measure of that angle. I don't think it's really that necessary. I mean, I know why they do it. They're just real picky about stuff. That's what it means. All right. Enough of that one. That was 5. Let's do 6. It says find the distance. Distance. Make sure you read the instructions and you use the formula for what it asks to find. Distance. So without even looking at the problem, I know I'm going to use this formula right here. It's got to be memorized. I don't know how many times I got to tell you. It has to be memorized. I think when I first taught this lesson, I even wrote the word memorize and put an arrow to it or something. Okay, it has to be memorized. You must know the distance formula without having to look at a, your notes or a little sheet or anything, that you bring along. Okay, you can't bring anything along except for your brain. All right, that's all you can bring. So what do we do? How do we find the first number? Well, we just subtract the x's from each other. It doesn't matter what order we subtract them. And then over here, you just subtract the y's from each other. Write it down like 10 times. You'll have it memorized. Okay, it's not that hard. Big old square root. It's kind of like Pythagorean theorem. It's where we got it from. All right, there you go. Now, look at number 6. It says find the distance between point R and point S. Well, they don't tell you actually the ordered pair, so what do you have to do? You got to look at the graph that they give you, and you have to figure out what the points are from the graph. And that shouldn't be too hard. So point R. Where is point R? -2, 2. Good. And then point S is, what's that, 4, 1? We'll put it right here. 4, 1. Alright, so that S is kind of ugly looking. Alright, so R and S. So there you go. There's your 2 points. Now we have to use this formula right here. So let's use the formula, and let's see how we do it. Put a big old square root first of all. Alright, and then put my parentheses in a squared, put a plus in between. This is the way I set it up every single time. This is the way you should set it up every single time. Put the big square root, couple parentheses, square them both, put a plus in between them. Right? Again, do that like 10 times and you'll have it memorized. How do we know what goes in this first parentheses? The x's, that's right. Take the x's and do what to the x's? Subtract them, right. It doesn't matter what order you subtract them. Let's just go -2 minus 4. In the other class I went 4 minus -2. It freaked a couple people out. I was like, okay, just go -2 minus 4. It doesn't matter. You'll still get the same exact answer, all right? What goes in the second parentheses? That's right, the y's. Subtract those. So I'm just going to go 2 minus 1. All right, let's see what we get. Big old square root. -2 minus 4 is -6. But watch, it's in parentheses and you square it. Plus 2 minus 1. That's 1, and that's squared. Everybody see that? If I'm going a little too quick, make sure you go and look at the video, okay? It'll be up tonight. -6 squared. Now, when you square a negative, what do you always get? A positive, okay? What if I square a positive? I'll always get a what? A positive. So it doesn't matter if I went -2 minus 4 or 4 minus -2. It'll still come out to positive what? What's that? 36. What's this going to be? Plus 1 squared. 1 times itself. 1 times 1 is 1. I've seen people put 2 there, right? It's 1 times itself. We're almost done, are we? Just add them up. 37. Just leave it like that. You don't even have to put that number into a calculator. Just keep it like that. I'm perfectly fine if you keep it like that. I see no reason to put that into a calculator. Now, if you did, you would get about 6.1 if you round it to 1 decimal place. But I don't need that number, okay? Just stop right there, and then you're done. Everybody see that? All right. Hope you're getting this. Now, the next one is not distance formula. What is it? It's midpoint. So let's write down the midpoint formula. Now, it's a point. A point is always an ordered pair. So the midpoint formula looks like a point. And what do? We take the x's. This time we add them up. We don't subtract them. And then what do we do after we add them up? Divided by 2. Good. And then we do the same thing with the y's. Just take the 2 y's, add them up, divide by 2. Again, it doesn't matter what order we add them up. Some books put x2 plus x1. I don't see why you would put the 2 first. Okay, just add up the 2 x's. That's it. That's the midpoint formula. So look at number 7 now. Number 7 says, find the coordinates of the midpoint of TU, of line segment TU. So I got to find the midpoint of that. So what do I need? I need to find out what point T is, and I have to find out what point U is. So you look on the graph. What is point T? Look at it. It's -1. How far down does that go? 4? Okay, so it's -1, -4. That's point T. And then point U, what's that, 2, 2? Okay. That's what I would do. Okay, I would look at the points on the graph and then write them down, just like this. Everybody with me? So let's see what we do. Find the midpoint. Watch, you can put a big old ordered pair here, figure out what's going to go in here. So first thing I do is I add up the x's, and I divide by 2. Which ones are the x's? These 2 right here. Add them up. -1 plus 2. We'll figure out that in a second. Then you do the same thing with the y's. You add up the y's. But it's a -4 plus 2. Make sure you realize that. And now it's just doing some math, isn't it? -1 plus 2 is 1 over 2. -4 plus 2, what's -4 plus 2? -2 over 2. Do I leave it like that, though? No, because I simplify that thing right there. The 1/2 won't simplify, but this will. -2 over 2 is not 1, but -1. That's your answer right there. Really couldn't be much easier than that. I mean, I guess it could if they told you what these points were, but they basically did, right? They stuck them on a graph, and you had to figure them out. But wasn't that hard. Just got to know the formula. Look, it's not hard to do these things. You just have to know the formula and what numbers to stick in the formula. Then the math is very, very simple. Have I needed a calculator one time yet? No, not at all. I've not needed a calculator one time. All right? So you don't really need a calculator to do this stuff. All right, let's do this next one. This next one's a little bit trickier. Let's go a different color here. Let's go this darker purple. This time, it says find the coordinates of a point M given that U is the midpoint. So this time, I tell you what, let's write it like this. It says find the coordinates of point M. It says find them. So I don't know what it is. So I'll call it XY. Is that all right? And then it says U is the midpoint. This time, instead of giving us two endpoints and finding the middle one, what do they give you? They give you the middle one, and they give you one of the endpoints. And you got to find the other endpoint. Okay? So you're using the midpoint formula, but you're using it differently. You're using it completely the opposite. All right? If you remember us doing this. We spent quite a bit of time doing these things. So look back on that video if you need to see that. It says U is the midpoint, so we got to find point U. Where is point U? It's 2, 2, isn't it? So I'm going to put 2, 2 there. It says it's the midpoint of line MS. Well, I don't know what point S is, so let's figure out what point S is. Look at your graph again. Where's point S? 4, 1. So look what they give you. They give you a midpoint, whereas the other problem, they asked for the midpoint. They wanted you to find the midpoint. This time they're telling you what the midpoint is, and they're giving you one endpoint. You got to find the other endpoint. Now you just have to remember what our little trick was here. We don't have to go through the whole entire midpoint formula. We learned a little trick. Do you remember what it was? We take the midpoint, right? The x part of the midpoint. This is the midpoint. I'm circling it. What do we do to that 2? Times it by 2. We double it. Okay? Write this down. The only reason you should not be writing is if you already got this and you have no problem with it. If you didn't get this, you should be writing this down. So take the midpoint. Okay? Take the x part of it, multiply it by 2, double it. And then do what to it? Minus, good. Minus that, the other x, which is a 4. Exactly right. You see what I did? I took the midpoint, the 2, right? I doubled it. What will that give me? 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. So that's half of our answer. That's the x part of our answer. Again, not very difficult. Let's do one more. Watch. Let's do this one. Take this 2, multiply it by 2, and then subtract what from that? You're just subtracting a 1 from it. So it's 4 minus 1 is 3. Here's your ordered pair. 0, 3, and that is your answer. Look at number 9. Number 9 really quick. What's true about those two line segments? They are equal to each other. Because if point M is the midpoint, those two segments are equal. So you set them equal, and guess what you do? You solve for y. Once you solve for y, you get 3, and that's your answer. Okay, that's it. Be ready for the quiz tomorrow.